Good morning, South Albany. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Easter service. They've got a lot of good things in store today. So really quick, I'd like to start off by introducing myself. For those of you I have not had the opportunity to meet, my name is Josiah Kohler. I'll start off with the beginning. I remember when I was about 10 years old. Okay, so my little sister and I shared a room, and I'll never forget this. My dad was talking with my little sister and I, and we were sitting on my bed, and we kind of, simultaneously came to my dad and said, "Dad, we want to accept Jesus into our hearts." And of course, my dad was thrilled. So he sat us there on my bed in that room and prayed that prayer with us. And that day, my little sister and I accepted Jesus into our hearts, which was awesome. I remember getting to high school, and the big temptation for a lot of kids, high school, you got to party, all that stuff, that just wasn't really for me. And so I had never had a struggle with the temptation. I guess I was lucky. I had no problem being around it. I just knew it was something that wasn't for me. Getting down the road a little ways, turning 21, that big age where people go to the bar and whatsoever, I was still good, still on track with, not drinking. It wasn't my thing, and I'd go hang out with friends and stuff at the bar. It's just kind of that vibe to get out and see, what are these adults doing? So did that for a little while, and all through this time, I would say I was beginning, which I now call my drifting away from God. 22 came around, and I met a girl. I know. She was crazy. No, I'm just kidding. Seriously though, she was crazy. And we kind of started talking a little bit and began to kind of, slowly date. And she was well aware of the fact that I was not a drinker. I didn't have a problem. Again, like I said, being around it, not a big deal. It just wasn't for me. And so she knew that, and getting into our relationship, that was fine with her, right? So I thought. Got to a point where, it came down to an ultimate us sitting down talking, and her, basically saying that it was over. We don't have anything in common, and which I knew, but when you've invested so much time in someone you think you genuinely care about, you can't just, shut it off. So I didn't want to lose that, if that makes sense. So I wanted to make her happy. I wanted to keep that going. And of course, as you can guess, the one thing that would have her be happy was for me to start drinking. And so I did, and I knew the second I did, it was a mixed feeling, right? So the first part of it was, okay, cool, this will make her happy, and this is good, right? And then on the other side of it, I knew deep down in my heart that what I was doing, complete red flag. If this is what it takes for someone to love you, this is not good. I look back at that year of how much I changed myself for the wrong reasons, for something I thought was love or something good, and it was not. And so we broke up, and I definitely struggled for a few months after that. And again, as I tell you, this starts my downslope of my following of Jesus. I kind of quit going to church altogether. I didn't stop believing in God necessarily. I would still randomly pray, but I was definitely one of those, I was in that lukewarm situation where I would pray when I really needed something selfishly, and that was pretty much it. I wouldn't, wake up and just thank God for another day on earth. So it was very selfish. And in that lifestyle, I turned into an extremely selfish person, where all I really cared about was going to party and going to hang out and drink and, etc. Well, then came a certain party I was at, and a girl that I had gone to high school with, Erin, she's in the back, don't look at her. Just kidding. Everybody look at her. Oh, she's gonna kill me. We met at this party. You know, we went to high school together, and we were friends in school and stuff. And I hadn't seen her in a long time, and we kind of started talking at this party, and it was like cool catching up, and we kind of slowly started talking after that, and it hung out a few times, and you know, we weren't really sure if anything was going to come of it, but things were going well, and you know, we had a lot in common, which was a nice change compared to how life had been going with other relationships. The alcohol, you know, really started to take the lead on everything. It was like my priority was, oh, I gotta have beer, you know, I gotta have beer at the house, whatever. And it just started getting worse and worse and worse. And so, not to go too deep into detail, but after multiple very, very bad decisions, you know, I started to kind of look around and realize I was losing everything. Aaron almost left me. You know, I was out of shape. There was no like joy. And it's funny, everyone always says like, you're trying to fill a void or you're chasing something, and you know, I don't want to sound cliche, but that's exactly it. Like, you're looking for something that you're trying to fill with nothing, if that makes sense to you. At least that's how I felt. But still, I kind of didn't really see a problem. You know, I had it under control, right? Everyone always says that. I could stop whenever I want. You can't. Towards the very end of my time with alcohol, within this final month, I would say, I had an experience where I've never really shared this story with anyone, but I feel like this is probably the best time to, you know, you're vulnerable here, right? And I'm trying to share with you guys how God's changed my life. So I was at a friend's house drinking, obviously, and remind you, this is that last kind of month breakdown of before things really hit rock bottom. And we had been drinking for a long, you know, most of the day. Well, nighttime, I'm about to go home, and I decided to drive, which another horrible idea. And I remember vividly driving back. I'm going down a back road, right? I knew this back way to get home. There's not a lot of traffic. There's no like tons of houses or anything. It's just kind of this back road. And I had my windows cracked down. I had the heat on, like just trying to make myself cozy while you're drunk. I know it's a horrible idea, but I remember driving, and you know, I was kind of just staring at the road driving, and I just remember dozing off, which I felt for like a split second. And I'll never forget the sound of my passenger side rear view mirror had clipped something. And like I said, my windows were cracked down, you know, a few inches. And the sound, everything just happened at once. I remember bang, and then the glass that came out of that little mirror just everywhere flying around inside my car. And I remember I grabbed my steering wheel, right back on the road. There's no other cars that I see. So I'm immediately still driving like, what just happened? And it's crazy, in that split second of even in my drunken fogginess, I felt something, and it was kind of just, right as that happened, this highlight reel of shame, if you will, I just kind of replayed right in that moment of all of the stupid things and bad decisions and all of the things that I was doing that I thought were, you know, not too bad in my life over the years. Just kind of like played through my head, all fast motion right there. And it was such an eye-opener. I mean, let alone I'm 10 and 2, white knuckle, grabbing my steering wheel, like what just happened? And I remember I got home and I just sat in my car, and I didn't even really know like what to do, what to say. I just was in shock pretty much. I 100% believe that was God's hand in some way, letting that moment happen to get my attention, to kind of get the ball rolling on me, deciding, okay, you know, God, with your help, I'm done. This is it, right? So my wife and I were dating at the time. You know, like I said, she had almost left me. We had started to work on mending things, and I knew the alcohol was the issue. I was past the point of justifying living like an idiot, and so that was when it started to make sense. Like, okay, something has to change, right? That day, that morning, I kind of just set it down right there where, you know, it's not worth it. And I feel like I'd be so much happier without this burden. And so I kind of just had my moment and talked with God and decided I was done. Like, this is it. I don't want to live this way anymore. I want to get my life back together and, you know, be happy. And so November 2nd, 2014 was the last time that I drank. So after that date, the progress began, I would say. The blessings, once, as most of you know, and I'm sure there's some of you don't know, once you surrender to God, it's like, duh, that's all it took. Like, it's just amazing, the blessings that come from that alone. So I'll tell you, from that moment, within the next year and a half, I was promoted at my job. I paid my car off, got back in shape. My wife, or my girlfriend at the time, and I's relationship was going strong. I was an entirely different person. On our anniversary, we went to the coast for a little weekend getaway, and I had a little something up my sleeve planned. I actually proposed to Erin, and she said yes, obviously. And 9 months later from that, we got married in Maui. And the cool part about that was my dad actually got his license to officiate the wedding, which was super special. My brother Jetty was my best man, and we got married on White Rock Beach in Maui. Just killer spot, sunset, like amazing. And so leading up to right before the wedding, you know, we had started going to church, and God's presence in our life was growing and growing, and it was just feeling so right and so good, and all these blessings were because of him. And so after the wedding, you know, that year goes by, and a year later we go back to the same spot, Maui, for our year anniversary, and our prayers were answered, and we got pregnant. Leading 9 months down the road, you know, our little baby boy was going to be here. Father's Day, June 17th, 2018, I felt God telling me that I should get baptized. And so I jumped on the opportunity. Now here's the kicker. Father's Day, right? 18, 19, 20, 4 days before my son's born, my dad gets the okay from Pastor Jim to baptize me. And so that alone is something I will never, ever forget. Very special. Again, 4 days later, little guy's born. Just amazing moment. For those of you who have gone through what it's like having a baby, the moment you lay eyes on them, it's just like, man, this whole new love that nobody can experience unless you experience that, if that makes sense. And what I thought most out of it was that split second when I first saw my son was not only my love and my wife's love for this baby that's like this little human that's ours. The first thing I thought about was, this is how much I love this little guy that I'm just now seeing. It made me think of how much God must love each one of us. And it just really, it was an emotional moment. And we had been back in church, before his birth, and it had just become apparent that it was extremely important for both of us. And, I would say my son now is, by the time you guys are seeing this, he'll be 10 months old today, actually. And it was such a perfect timing to be back in church, and like God's love is just overwhelming both of our lives with blessings. And so I would say within this last year and a half is when I really, even backtracking a little from the date of sobriety, I felt God's love more and more. But like I said in the beginning, I feel there's a major difference of, I love God, and saying that in your head, and you pray here and there, and you go to church here and there. There's a big difference of that to where I'm growing closer to where that's the most important thing, is living our life for Christ, right? Living as the Bible commands. And it's definitely hard. I mean, none of us are perfect, but I think as long as we're on track striving to live by those commands and live the life God wants us to, it's important. Like I said, this last year and a half, I have grown in my faith and my love for God more than my entire life. And I now know what it means to love God with your heart. And I'm so excited, to see the journey that my wife and my son and even my friends and family and those around me, the impact that I'll have on others, living this new life, I would say. So for those of you out there, I'll kind of close on this. For those of you out there who may be lost, or you feel like you're at kind of a dead end or in a dark place, there's no way out. Well, I'm telling you, there is a way out, and what it requires is you surrendering, which is tough, but I assure you it is a game changer. I would not be anywhere near where the person I am or be in the situation I am to be a father, to be a husband, without taking that step. I don't know where I would be. What that takes is surrendering, which it's a hard step, but I assure you, it's once you kind of like give it up and let God take control, you'll see that things start to work a lot better than they were when you thought you were in control. I just think it's super important that you'll see what it's like and learn to live a life, thinking eternally instead of temporarily, where at any moment, life here on earth could be over. Eternity is something I used to never think about, and now it's all I think about. It's so important. Thinking, that eternal mindset, and not focusing on temporary things here on earth that we get so caught up in. You think like, I want to live for eternity in the presence of our Creator. Like, there's nothing better than that. There's something I always hear that I think I can hear it a million times, and it's intimidating, but so awesome at the same time. And it's in Scripture when it talks about He dwells in unapproachable light. And when you think of that image and what that looks like, of angels bowing down from this light, it's like, I want that. Yeah, I want nothing but that. And so I will continue to live the rest of my life for God and trying to follow the plans He leads me on, and trust in Him and know that He like it says, He'll never forsake you. So if there's those of you here that aren't sure, I think this is a great opportunity. This is that knocking. This could be that calling. Give it a chance. I assure you, you won't regret it. It completely changed my life and so many people in my life that I know that were in the dark. So with that said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your service. Have a great Easter Sunday with your loved ones, and just really reflect on, what today is about. So thank you for letting me share this story with you guys, and have a great day.